At 4:30 in the morning, I got a knock on my door that would change my family's life forever. This was the worst moment of my life. It will be etched in my mind and heart for as long as I live.
This is Bishop Robert Stearns. I'm here on Mount Zion in Jerusalem. The Mount of Olives is just behind me. And Solidarity Sunday 2025 was an incredible coming together of Jews and Christians standing in solidarity together, declaring never again. I want to invite you to join me as you hear the speeches, the testimony, the witness firsthand of Jewish leaders who are standing strong and proud in the midst of attack, in the midst of this rising anti-Semitism. They are raising their voices, and we are forming a wall of protection around them. Join me as you hear their amazing stories.
I've been asked by many people, how are you able to hold your life together after losing a child? I answer them with a story about a stranger who gave me the gift of peace when I was mourning Rose's death in Jerusalem. The stranger came to me and told me he was the father of 7, but 5 had died in a fire in New York City. He told me how he had struggled for a long time until he met a rabbi who asked him if God came to him today and gave him the option to never have had those 5 children, would he have accepted the offer? He in turn asked me that question, and with tears in my eyes, I said I would have taken the 20 years with my daughter Rose. He said, of course you would, and me as well with my 5 children. My time with Rose was 20 years. That was the deal. I have learned that I should not try and live what I thought I was supposed to have. I have found a way to live with what God gave me and be grateful for it. Every day I find meaning in the amazing life Rose lived, and am honored that it is inspiring others. I want to tell you about Rose, her childhood, her time in Israel, her death, and our journey with her death. We raised Rose in a religious home that practiced Orthodox Judaism and taught her about Zionism. She was the oldest of 5 siblings, Alec, Joseph, Lily, and Isaac. Rose was a bright, happy child. She loved people and her family. She embraced education and was always open to learning new skills. She was a writer, singer, actress, and dancer at a very young age. She was a very cool kid. In kindergarten, we started noticing her expressing herself with mismatched socks and funky clothing. She wore a toboggan with 2 hands clapping for over a year. And we never stopped her because we understood she was not acting out. She was just expressing herself. At the age of 12, she asked if she could color her hair. Little did we know, her hair would never be its natural color again. Rose was magical. If you ever met her, you would know that. She had a way about her that you knew she was special, but she made you feel special. She made people want to do better and be better. She inspired people to care about themselves. It was such a unique quality, and it's hard to explain. As sweet as she was, she would not tolerate a bully. At a young age, she encountered anti-Semitism on multiple occasions and did not tolerate it. I remember a knock on our door from a parent letting us know Rose had sent a couple of boys home crying for picking on her and friends for being Jewish. It soon became clear not to mess with her and her friends. We never shielded Rose from Jewish hatred. We made her aware of the atrocities committed against her ancestors, specifically the Holocaust. Some of our family had been murdered in the Holocaust, and we made sure she understood that this could happen again. We taught her to never judge people, based on their differences, but to look at someone's character and what they stood for. This was a guiding light for Rose for all her life. She did not judge people. Another amazing attribute that she distinguished was not gossip. She understood the negative impact gossip has on the world, and she chose to avoid it. She watched what she said, knowing that what we say is important and can have a profound impact on people. When I gave her eulogy, I talked about how she did not gossip. And a rabbi at my synagogue came to me and said he wanted to talk to me about this. I was waiting for him to say, "No one doesn't gossip." Instead, he told me a story about his daughter being in class with Rose when they were 5 years old. His daughter came home one day and was crying, and he asked her why. She proceeded to tell him that a girl at school was not coming back because they were gossiping too much. The girl was Rose. I talked to so many of her friends who told me how Rose would walk away from the conversation sometimes when they would be gossiping. She would not tolerate it. But she would not judge, they said. She would look at them and simply say, "This is not something I want to engage in, and if you are, I understand, but I'm not going to be a part of it." When Rose turned 12, we celebrated her bat mitzvah. The bat mitzvah is a Jewish coming-of-age ceremony that signifies that a young woman has attained legal adulthood under Jewish law. I want to read a little bit of Rose's speech so you can have an understanding of this girl at 12. "Life is an ongoing path of mystery," she said, "adventure and love. It is like one long book, and like other books, it has a beginning and end. It is hard to believe it, but there was a time when I was as young as my little sister Lily, and there will be a time when I am not existent in this world. So what do I do about it? I make every chapter in my book worth reading. I work hard to do my best and follow the laws that God has instructed me to follow. I am not going to wait for the world to do something great for me. I am going to do something great for the world. Now, at this point in my life, I have all the power to make a difference, become a better person, and create a mind-blowing life story. And no matter how hard it becomes to withstand the current of wrongdoing, no matter how difficult it gets to turn the other cheek, I will always push to do the right thing and to find the stagnant water where I can be me and make a change. I know what I am capable of, and I know how I can use my talents for the benefits of others. There are no boundaries, only endless amounts of opportunity." Rose had so many options from universities in America. She was receiving scholarship offers, but would not apply to any schools. She was adamant that she was going to Israel to serve in the army. How did this all-American girl with so much going for her leave the safety of America to become an Israeli soldier? It all began when she was 5 years old. She went to Israel with her Zadie, which is Yiddish for grandpa. She would not board the plane home after the trip unless I promised a return trip, and I made good on that when she was 8. And we returned to Israel. It was after this trip, Rose decided that when she was 18, she was going to move to Israel and serve in the military. Her soul was connected to Israel. An 8-year-old knew exactly what she wanted to do with the rest of her life. I always tell the story of Rose at a young age, meeting new kids and always explaining to them that they could be friends, but when she turned 18, she was moving to Israel. She was always training for the day she would move. She was never scared or had any doubt about this decision. She knew what God had destined for her, and she did not question it. She stayed focused and trained for the army. At 18, Rose moved to Israel and joined an Ulpan to learn Hebrew. An Ulpan is a school with intense Hebrew learning. The Ulpan she joined was located on Kibbutz Sedai Eliyahu, which is located near the border of Jordan. Rose would work in the fields in the morning and then study Hebrew all afternoon. She was then accepted in an organization called Gareen Sabar. Gareen Sabar is for foreigners moving to Israel to make aliyah and become citizens. The term aliyah is the process of becoming a citizen of Israel. This is not an easy process and is filled with lots of bureaucracy. Rose told me lots of crazy stories about how things worked in Israel. Israeli culture is very different than American culture. These young adults must learn to navigate the language and bureaucracy as outsiders. Gareen Sabar helped them do that and guided them through the process to obtain citizenship and complete their army service. The new soldiers are given the name of lone soldier, which we saw in the song we heard earlier, since they are alone and without a family. In fact, some Israelis that are orphaned or from very religious families that do not approve of the army will become lone soldiers. Israel has about 7,000 lone soldiers in active duty. Gareen Sabar puts the lone soldiers in groups and provides housing with other lone soldiers. They usually end up on kibbutz, living in a bunkhouse with about 40 other lone soldiers. Rose's Gareen was placed at kibbutz Sa'ad. I remember receiving a letter of congratulations from Gareen Sabar that said Rose had made the cut and was being placed at kibbutz Sa'ad. I looked up kibbutz Sa'ad on the map and was shocked when I saw that it was only 1.5 kilometers from Gaza. I was very nervous because the area is constantly under attack from missiles. They have requirements that you must have a bomb shelter within 9 seconds of any home or commercial building. I called Rose concerned and she told me not to worry. I remember on my first visit to Sa'ad, seeing the bus stops that doubled as bomb shelters, noticing the playgrounds that also were bomb shelters, and that every house had a safe room. It's very hard for us to picture this, of living where everything that you do, you have to have a facility or something around you because missiles could be flying into your house at any moment. But this is how they live. When I was actually playing with kids on the playground there, I noticed that they had actually taken part of a missile and converted it into a toy that had landed on the kibbutz. Rose fell in love with kibbutz Sa'ad and the farms around her. The James family adopted Rose. This was a family that lived on the kibbutz, and she would spend her time off from the army with this family. The James family had 4 young children, and they would cook meals for Rose, help with laundry, and provide any support she needed. She became a very close person in their lives. She became their 5th child. Rose then decided she wanted to join a unit in the army called Magav. Magav is an anti-terrorist police unit that guards borders and areas around Israel. It is the only unit in Israel that allows women to do exactly what men do, and they are trained for combat. Rose explained to me that she did not want to join the army and not participate or make a difference. She knew that in Magav, she would be active and would make a difference. She finished at the top of her basic training class and asked to serve in Jerusalem. Her request was granted, and she was able to serve out her dream of defending Jerusalem. She was stationed to work in the Muslim quarter of the Old City. Rose would protect and guard Jews, Christians, and Muslims visiting and living in the Old City. She would spend her day guarding gates, patrolling the streets. She would protect visitors who were walking the Via Dolorosa. This is the path Jesus walked during the 13 stages of the cross. She would also stand guard on the Temple Mount. She would call me at times and show me pictures of her on top of the temple protecting it. It was truly an amazing place to work, and it gave her what she was looking for. She was actually living her dream and fulfilling her mission in life. Rose was given an award actually for capturing terrorists who were firebombing Jewish homes in the Old City. She was also identified by the mayor of Jerusalem as an officer of excellence. She rose in rank to first staff sergeant. It was on a path to being a commander. So on October 7th, which we're all aware of what happened, the atrocities that were committed that day, it was a Sabbath, and it was also a holiday of Simchat Torah. Simchat Torah is a celebration of completing the yearly Torah reading. In other words, we finish reading the Old Testament and we start over. Rose is off duty and at her home, Kibbutz Sa'ad, which, as I mentioned before, is only 1.5 kilometers from Gaza. At 6:35 in the morning, Hamas began launching missiles at Israel. Hamas would launch over 3,800 missiles that day. Everyone was ordered to take cover in their safe rooms. Rose called us and informed her mother that she was safe, and she was in her safe room. You have to understand, at Kibbutz Sa'ad, there's over 1,200 people that live there. It is surrounded by security fences, security gates, and has a 16-man armed volunteer security team. Sa'ad sits at a heavily traveled junction in the area. It's only 5 kilometers where the Nova Music Festival happened, which I'm sure we're all aware of, and it's across the street from Kibbutz Faraza, which on that day was decimated. So you have to realize Sa'ad was smack in the middle of this Hamas attack. At 7:30 a.m., the Sa'ad security team began patrolling the kibbutz. At this time, people fleeing Hamas began arriving at Sa'ad's gates for safety. At 10 a.m., the 3 members of the security team had to leave to assist at other battles that were happening. So the security team of 16 was now reduced to only 13. They sent out a text asking if anyone had a long gun and would volunteer. Rose and her boyfriend Keon immediately called and said they would help. They were both told that they may not survive the day, and it was up to them. Rose said she understood and was coming to the gate. She then called us and told her mother that she had her gun and uniform on and was going to guard the gate, and she loved us. We did not understand the magnitude of what was happening, nor that those words could have been her last words to us. At the gate of Sa'ad, they looked at Rose and again told her she did not have to fight. And in usual Rose fashion, she told them that she wanted to fight. They positioned Rose at the front gate, and she guarded the gate during multiple firefights with Hamas. At this point in the battle, Hamas had infiltrated every kibbutz surrounding Sa'ad and was brutally murdering anyone on the roads. By 12, Sa'ad had become a staging area for survivors from surrounding kibbutz, injured soldiers, and those fleeing the Nova Music Festival. At 12:45, a paratrooper arrived at Sa'ad and needed to begin landing helicopters in the fields behind Sa'ad. Rose and Keon were tasked with the duty of directing the paratrooper to the fields to be used for this operation. She then began assisting in the landing of the helicopters, transporting the wounded and manning the gate to protect the kibbutz. It was at this gate that Rose saved Keon's life. Both were exposed at the gate and had little coverage. Hamas was in the fields around them, and Rose saw them. She knocked Keon to the ground just as bullets were fired at them and saved his life. Around 10 p.m., Rose was relieved from her position because Hamas had been stopped and she could rest. She called me on the phone and said, "Dad, I was in a war." She began to laugh, and it was clear that what she had been through was beginning to sink in. Close to 900 civilians fleeing Hamas found refuge at Kibbutz Sa'ad. No one on the kibbutz lost their lives. Rose was a hero that day and played a crucial role in saving these lives. The following day, Rose's commander left Jerusalem and extracted Rose from her kibbutz. I talked to Rose when she was back in Jerusalem. She broke down on the phone and cried. She explained that she had seen the destruction and death Hamas had caused on the roads back to Jerusalem. Rose had fought behind the gates of Sa'ad, but that drive showed her the cruelty of what was done. She would never be the same again. When Rose returned to her base, she would not take any time off. Her journals revealed that while she did not always feel safe at home or at her base, She knew why she was fighting and would not have wanted to be anywhere else. During the month after October 7th, her police station in East Jerusalem was attacked on 2 separate occasions. One time in a shootout, and then a knife attack on a soldier. On November 6, while on duty, Rose was attacked by a 16-year-old terrorist. She died from the wound she sustained from that attack. At 4:30 in the morning, I got a knock on my door that would change my family's life forever. This was the worst moment of my life and will be etched in my mind and heart for as long as I live. Rose's funeral was at Har Herzl, the Arlington of Israel. And we experienced something truly incredible at this funeral. Streams of people flooding the streets were also going to Har Herzl. We found ourselves surrounded by 15,000 people who came to mourn our daughter. It felt as though we were lifted up the mountain. Most of them had never met Rose, yet they felt as if they had lost a daughter as well. We then mourned Rose for 7 days in Jerusalem. Each day, close to 1,000 people came to visit us, all strangers. It became apparent to me that Rose gave her life for something bigger than I had ever imagined. The Israeli people understood the significance of life and the importance of each life. They understood what me and my family had sacrificed. They did struggle with, why would Rose leave America with such a good life and come to Israel where it's harder? I then would tell them Rose's life story and what she believed in. And they would turn to me and tell me that they had come to see me to give me comfort and hope. But Rose's story had given them hope and comfort. This is what Rose was about. She found meaning and love in what was truly important: family, friends, and God. She did not run after material items, but always searched for ways she could give to others. I would like to end with a message that our family adopted when Rose died, and I hope it inspires everyone here today. My family could have turned to hate. We had all the right in the world to hate those who took Rose, those who helped those who took Rose, even those who made mistakes that day when she died. Instead, we realized that what killed Rose was the hatred that exists in this world. And if we embraced it, then we would have failed. We would have invalidated everything our daughter stood for. Rose said in her bat mitzvah speech as well, this is another part of it, the human race will never be perfect. We will never be perfect. But we can always try to live up to the people like Joseph, who can let go of things that other people do to him and continue loving his family. Most people spend their whole life trying to find the meaning of happiness. But what I have figured out on my own is that happiness is not something you search for. It is something you find within the people and things you love. I already have all the happiness I need. I have my family, my friends, and the internet. My dear Rose, thank you for the 20 years and inspiring me to be better every day. Thank you.
These stories, these testimonies are overwhelming. It's amazing to hear the strength, the perseverance, the resilience of the Jewish people. I want to invite you to join me and come alongside our covenantal older brother in faith, the Jewish community. You can do that by going to eagleswings.org and becoming a partner today. You can plant a tree in Israel in our forest of life, an amazing, amazing forest that literally the desert is blossoming as the rose. You can feed hungry Israelis Israeli families through our Abraham's Bread feeding program. There's so many different ways for you to be involved, but let me hear from you today. Make your best gift today and ask your church to be involved in next year's Solidarity Sunday. All of the information is there in the link. We are believing that hundreds and hundreds of churches are going to join together every year and understand that never again is now, and we have to be a part of that solution. I look forward for your prayers, your giving, your partnership, making a difference in this generation. Solidarity Sunday, be a part of it.